The illusion of progress. Why representation without power fails. Black women in America. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm truly honored to stand before you to share some profound insights I gained from my recent interview with Denise Brewer, a revolutionary force whose work has been transforming how we understand equity and advancement for Black women in America. Denise isn't just an advocate, she's a visionary who has dedicated her life to peeling back the comfortable veneer of progress to reveal the uncomfortable truths beneath. Her unflinching commitment to authentic change has made her an indispensable voice in the struggle for true equality, and her courage in speaking truth to power has opened doors for countless women across this nation. What I'm about to share with you today might challenge some of your fundamental assumptions about progress. It certainly challenged mine. We often celebrate statistics showing increased representation as evidence that we're moving toward equality. We point to numbers and percentages as proof that barriers are falling. But what if I told you that representation alone is a mirage, that it creates the illusion of progress while masking deeper, more persistent inequities? This is the counterintuitive truth that emerged from my conversation with Denise Brewer, and it's a truth that demands our attention. Let me start with something that might surprise you. In several Southern states, Black women are significantly overrepresented in public sector employment. In Mississippi, for example, Black women make up nearly 28% of state government workers. At first glance, this sounds like a success story, evidence of doors opening, of opportunities expanding. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Despite this impressive representation, Black women in these roles continue to face substantial wage disparities compared to white men performing similar jobs. They remain dramatically underrepresented in leadership positions. The very sectors that appear to welcome them still maintain invisible barriers to their advancement and economic security. This challenges a fundamental assumption many of us hold, that getting a foot in the door naturally leads to progress. That representation eventually translates to equity. That if we just focus on getting more diverse candidates into positions, the rest will follow. The data tells a different story, and it's a story we need to understand if we're serious about creating genuine change. During my interview with Denise, she shared a powerful insight that has stayed with me. Representation without power is just decoration. Those words cut through the noise and expose the uncomfortable truth beneath our celebration of diversity statistics. Let's look deeper at what's happening in these southern states where Black women have achieved significant representation in government roles. Historically, Black women were excluded from many private sector jobs due to discrimination. The public sector, with its civil service protections and standardized hiring practices, became a refuge, a place where merit could theoretically overcome bias. And yes, doors did open, numbers did increase, but as Denise pointed out, these gains haven't translated into proportional economic advancement or leadership opportunities. In Georgia, Louisiana, and other states where Black women make up 20% or more of the public workforce, they remain concentrated in lower paying positions. The wage gaps persist, the glass ceilings remain intact, and the economic consequences are devastating. In New York, Black women earn just 66 cents for every dollar a white man makes. Over a career, this disparity can cost more than $1 million dollars in lost wages. That's not just an abstract statistic, it represents homes not purchased, education not funded, retirement security not achieved, generational wealth not built. The soft girl era that Denise embodies in her approach reminds us that behind these statistics are real women with real dreams, real struggles, and real potential that remains untapped. It's about vulnerability and growth, about acknowledging the pain while creating space for transformation. What's particularly striking about this situation is how it creates a false sense of progress. We see the representation numbers improving and assume the underlying systems must be becoming more equitable. But representation without structural change is like painting a house that's crumbling at its foundation. It might look better temporarily, but the fundamental problems remain. This pattern extends beyond the public sector. In education, for example, we've seen similar dynamics at play. Despite Black women's significant presence in teaching roles, they remain dramatically underrepresented among superintendents and other top leadership positions. Denise shared how this underrepresentation has complex historical roots, including the fallout from school desegregation policies that often push Black educators out of their positions. Modern accountability pressures disproportionately impact Black educators, creating additional barriers to advancement. Let me tell you about Marion, a brilliant educator Denise worked with in Louisiana. After 15 years of exemplary teaching, consistently producing some of the highest student achievement gains in her district, Marion applied for a principal position. Despite her stellar record in advanced degrees, she was passed over 3 times for candidates with less experience and fewer qualifications. When she finally asked for feedback, she was told she needed to be more assertive. Yet her white colleagues who displayed assertiveness were praised for their leadership qualities. This isn't just Marion's story, it's a pattern repeated across industries and regions. Black women are caught in an impossible double bind, criticized for being too assertive or dismissed for not being assertive enough, judged by standards that shift depending on who's being evaluated. The lesson here isn't that representation doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But representation alone isn't enough. True equity requires dismantling systemic barriers at every level. It requires addressing both the visible and invisible obstacles that prevent Black women from advancing, earning fair compensation, and exercising genuine leadership. So, what does meaningful change look like? Through my conversation with Denise, several pathways emerged. First, transparency is essential. We can't address wage gaps we can't see. Advocacy groups have pushed for laws requiring salary disclosures by race and gender, making it harder to hide disparities behind closed doors. Second, mentorship and sponsorship matter enormously. Some states have introduced targeted programs aimed at preparing more Black women for senior leadership positions, recognizing that advancement often requires not just skills, but connections and champions. Third, we need to examine and reform the underlying systems that perpetuate inequity, even as they appear to embrace diversity. This means looking at hiring practices, promotion criteria, performance evaluations, and organizational cultures with a critical eye. But perhaps most importantly, we need to shift how we measure progress. Representation is just the beginning, not the end goal. The real measures of success are equity in compensation, authority in decision making, and opportunity for advancement. As Denise so eloquently put it during our interview, we don't just need seats at the table, we need to be able to rearrange the furniture and sometimes build an entirely new table. This perspective aligns perfectly with the core philosophy of the soft girl era. It's not about aesthetics or trends, but about a spiritual, emotional, and mental recalibration. It's about Black women reclaiming their right to define success on their own terms, to prioritize their well being, and to demand genuine equity rather than symbolic inclusion. For high achieving Black women who have spent years in survival mode, leading teams, raising families, holding down households, carrying communities, this message resonates deeply. They're exhausted from constantly grinding and ready to shift to finally grounding in joy, peace, softness, and self prioritization. The journey from representation to true equity parallels the journey from constantly doing to mindfully being. Both require us to look beyond surface appearances to deeper truths. Both demand that we question assumptions about what progress looks like, and both invite us to imagine and create new possibilities. So, where do we go from here? I challenge each of you today to become architects of authentic change. This isn't about comfortable allyship or symbolic gestures. This is about dismantling and rebuilding systems that have failed too many for too long. If you're a policymaker or organizational leader, stop celebrating diversity numbers while ignoring equity outcomes. Implement transparent compensation practices, create accountability for advancement disparities, fund leadership development programs specifically designed for women of color. And most importantly, listen to Black women when they tell you what they need, not what you think they need. If you're an educator or mentor, recognize the unique barriers Black women face and actively work to dismantle them. Challenge biased assumptions about leadership styles. Sponsor, don't just mentor. Use your privilege to create pathways, not just point to them. And if you're a Black woman navigating these complex realities, know this: your worth isn't determined by systems designed without you in mind. Your leadership isn't defined by those who haven't lived your experience. Your voice matters, your vision matters, and your well being matters most of all. The revolution we need won't be measured in representation percentages. It will be measured in power shared, in barriers broken, in lives transformed. It will be measured in Black women leading without apology, succeeding without compromise, and thriving without exhaustion. As Denise Brewer has shown us, the path forward isn't about fitting into existing structures, it's about creating new ones. It's not about playing by rules that were never designed for our success. It's about writing new rules that ensure equity for all. I leave you with this call to action. Don't just count who's in the room, transform the room itself. Don't just open doors, redesign the building. Don't just invite voices to the conversation. Change what we're talking about and how we're talking about it. Because true progress isn't measured in who gets invited, it's measured in who gets to lead, who gets to decide, who gets to thrive. And until Black women are equally represented in those measures, our work is far from done. Thank you.